Hi guys, my name is Erica Molette. For most of the students, you haven't met me yet or seen
We
me on
can't hear you.
screen. Oh, can you hear me?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I can.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's
Okay.
because she's all the way
Okay.
or whatever. I can't hear her.
Parker, can you hear me? Josh, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Well, I'll only be on for a moment. So Kyle's my son, so he's heard everything I have to say, so it's no problem. But I want to thank all of you students for being a part of this camp all week. We've given you a lot. We've given you 20 different speakers from architecture, sports medicine. You're going to have fashion and the NBA this afternoon. We're talking aerospace engineering and business and serial entrepreneurship today. And my entire goal in creating this camp for you is because I see you and I know that you're at that pivotal age. You're 14, 15, maybe even 16. And if you're a student athlete, you kind of know what's coming. You know if you're on a path for pro sports, you know if maybe college sports is going to be realistic for you, or maybe you're tired of sports and you're saying, what's next? And you are, for the majority of you, you are young men, young women that are African American, and you may be seeing everything that's going on in this country and wondering where is the place for you? Where will you be welcomed? And all of the industries that you've heard from, they've made it clear that there's a place for you in the boardroom, in the operating room, in the classroom, on the court, in the back office, running things. And so you have limitless opportunity. And today's athlete, as you will see from the story of Josh Dobbs and from Michael Lito and Jalen Smith, I'm sure he'll share some stories of him, that the standard for today's athlete is high. You can't just be athletic. You have to also be intellectual, and you can't just be intellectual and worry about yourself. You have to lead your community. And so those are the characteristics that we're going to expect of you as you move forward in our country and in your community. So I'm going to jump off, but I wanted to thank you. Just know that your points should be updated for everything that you've done during the week. And after 2 o'clock, you can check in and cash in for all of the Xbox gift cards, the gaming headsets, the Chick-fil-A gift cards, Power Hands gear, all the things that we have for you. We're so proud of you. All right. Thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you later.
Good afternoon. My name is Parker Stripling. Kyle, can you hear
Kyle,
me?
can you hear anything?
Yeah, my bad. My name is Kyle Millette.
And we are your hosts for Mamba Mentality Book Club, and we discuss Kobe Bryant's words of wisdom each day with different speakers. Today, our speakers are Joshua Dobbs, a quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars and aerospace engineer, Michael V. Lito, CEO of Rise Sports Academy, and Saeed Ahmad, UCLA pre-law student who is heading to law school. Congrats on Saeed for graduating. Don't forget, like Miss Erica just said, you can earn points for PS4 and Xbox gift cards and Chick-fil-A and gaming headsets by just commenting down below. Joshua has the presentation for us, so we'll get started and then we'll ask questions right after. Joshua, take it away.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joshua Dobbs. Thank you for the intro. I am currently quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And my goal in my presentation today is to show you my story, both growing up as a student athlete in college and then into my professional life. So we go to the next slide. Let's see.
Next slide.
Hold up. All right. So with the slideshow presentation, so it starts. So I attended the University of Tennessee, as I said in the intro, where I studied aerospace engineering, and I received a minor in business. So I'll give you guys a little background of how I got there, got to the University of Tennessee, how I decided what I wanted to major in, and kind of what continues to propel me each day to continue to achieve my goals. Let's go to the third slide. if the start with the early years.
They're working on it right now.
Okay, perfect.
There we go.
Awesome. So I'll just do this and you can go to the next slide. That makes sense. So the early years. Next slide. So like many of you guys, I grew up and I started playing sports very early. I was signed up for tackle football at the age of 5, where I also started playing basketball and baseball as well. If you go to the slide after that, a big thing for me, in addition to sports, a big thing that my parents as well was sign me up for extracurricular activities. Growing up, I was the only child. I'm from Alpharetta, Georgia. My parents played a pivotal role in my life in motivating me to figure out the activities, the sports that I was interested in and wanted to continue to pursue throughout high school, college, and even to my professional life. So as they signed me up for sports at a very young age, if you go to the next slide, they also introduced me and motivated me to pursue other interests. You know, I was in karate. I played saxophone in the band. I took piano lessons growing up. I learned a little golf. I was in the choir. So I did several things. If I had to really show everything I did, I probably couldn't fit all the pictures on one slide. But the goals of those experiences were for me to be involved, and 2, to figure out at a young age what interested me, what I had interest in. So as we continue to progress, you go to the next slide. As they signed me up for sports and pushed me to do extracurriculars, we're a very big family trip family. So my love for aviation and space, I found that at a very young age. Whenever we go on trips, my biggest thing was I wanted to fly because I was so fascinated with aviation. I was a kid that was looking up airplanes when we go fly, figuring out what planes Delta flew, what planes different airliners flew. I was a big fan of the Concorde jets. When I was 8, we took our first family trip to the Kennedy Space Center, and there I was able to meet astronauts. It was in the peak shuttle age. You guys might be a little too young to know the history of the shuttle space race, but the goal of the shuttle was to build the International Space Station. So then they were launching 4 shuttles a year. So there was a lot of astronauts and a lot of activities going on at the Kennedy Space Center. So I was able to be down there and kind of interact with those astronauts, see various rockets, see some of the Apollo rockets as well. So it really piqued my interest. So we go to the next slide. So as I was involved in a lot of activities, so I was able to figure out that, one, I had a love and affinity for aviation and space. So I knew I wanted to study aerospace engineering. As I progressed through middle school and into high school, 2 sports kind of began to be more prominent for me. Those were football and baseball. So a big piece of my high school recruitment, and for many of you student athletes, it should be big in your recruitment, is attending a school that offers everything that you want to get out of the entire experience, not just in the classroom, not just on the field, but it encompasses everything. So for me, I wanted to figure out, one, which sport I wanted to play. I had the opportunity to play football D1, also baseball D1, and I wanted to study aerospace engineering. So I needed a school that had what I wanted to study, allowed me to play the sport I wanted to play at the most competitive level, and a place that felt like home, and a place that I knew that if I didn't attend that school for a sport, I still would genuinely enjoy going to that school, of studying, and I would enjoy the campus environment. So if you go to the next slide, I ended up attending the University of Tennessee. I graduated high school in 2013. And I ended up attending the University of Tennessee because it had everything I wanted to do. It had the opportunity to study aerospace engineering. It has a very prominent engineering school and one of the top business schools as well, where I got a minor in business. It had the opportunity to play football. I ended up choosing football, but to play early as well. And I knew that I was coming to a coaching staff, but I knew that playing for a prominent school such as Tennessee, with a lot of QBs that come before me, such as Peyton Manning, T. Martin, Heath Shuler, Condrich Holloway, some great names to be in that lineage. And then it felt like home. And that's the biggest thing. You want to go to a school where you feel comfortable at. So with those 3 things in mind, University of Tennessee was the perfect fit for me. So if you go to the next slide, So you can skip 2 slides. I'll just give you the day in the life of a normal student athlete. I know many of you guys want to be a student athlete, but being a student athlete at the college level comes with a lot of responsibilities. The first thing that comes with is the responsibility of staying on top of your schoolwork, staying ahead of the classroom, and being organized. So if you look at this, this is the daily calendar that we had. The one on the left would be like a summer schedule where you have your morning lifts in the morning, and then you have your classes in the afternoon. The one on the right is a normal spring or fall class schedule. So for me being in engineering school, my day consisted of wake up about 8 or 9. Well, class would start at 8 or 9, excuse me. So breakfast was before that. So you're waking up at 7, eat breakfast, then you're to class 8 or 9. Classes from 8 or 9 to about 2. So you finish class at 2. Your first meeting starts at 2:30. You got to be early to that, but you also have to get lunch. So you're walking across campus, eating lunch, getting to the facility, getting taped and ready for practice to be in your seat early for the 2:30 team meeting. Your meetings from 2:30 to 4:30, about 2 hours of meetings. Then you're on the practice field from about 4:45 to 6:30, hour and a half, 2 hours on the field. Then from there, you're into your post-practice lift, treatment, dinner, and then you're off to study hall. Get to study hall about 9, 2 hours of study hall. Then if you haven't finished your homework, you need to get ahead. Then for the library. Then from there, you go to sleep, wake up, repeat process. So as you can see, that the schedule, it may seem overwhelming. However, it's not. And what helps you are 2 things. One, right now you guys are in high school. So the habits that you are creating right now in high school to manage your time with sports and being a student are the same habits you have to fall back on when you get to the college level. And then second is the people around you. When you get to college, you have a support group, and the onus is on you to use that support group, whether it's in your counselors or in your mentors that you have on campus, your academic advisors. So when you get to college, when you get to that next level, be sure to utilize the resources around you because they're there to help you achieve the goals you want in the classroom and help you stay prepared so you're ahead of the game. So then you can focus when you get to practice and take care of business on the field. If you go to the next slide, I'll share with you a couple of my engineering opportunities in college. I was able to intern with Pratt & Whitney twice, which is a leading engine manufacturer for several of the commercial jets and military jets. And then I was also able to do a senior design project where we had to build a plane. Is right there, me throwing it on the right. To a certain specification, compete in a competition. So the key thing with this is when you get to college, especially being a student athlete, you may seem like, your schedule's overwhelmed. You got games every Saturday, you have a lot of schoolwork, but the key is also to maximize your time. There will be other opportunities to go out there and get real job experience in the field that you want to pursue, whether it's for a week, whether it's for a month, or whether it's for 2 months. No matter what the time period may be, when those opportunities come, jump on them to be able to have that experience. So then when you get to your professional life, you're able to utilize it. So you go to the next slide. In 2000, I finished my senior season in 2016. Set a lot of school records and SEC records. I was drafted in 2017 to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 4th round. Go to the next slide. I spent 2 years in Pittsburgh. And then spent last year, I was traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars week 2 of the season. So I'm going to my 4th year of the NFL, my 2nd year here in Jacksonville. If you go to the next slide, even though I've been in the NFL going on my 4th year, I've still been able to utilize my time in the off season to maximize and get experience in the aviation world. A couple off seasons ago, I was able to attend adult space camp. I don't know if you guys have been able to attend kids space camp. It's in Huntsville, Alabama. I was able to go to adult space camp, spend some time at the Rocket Center up in Huntsville, Alabama. And then if you go to the next slide, I was able to fly with the Thunderbirds as well. There's a couple videos kind of documenting that experience. In addition to those experiences, I just finished up an internship with NASA back in February, where I spent time back at Kennedy Space Center. So everything kind of came full circle from when I was 8. Spent time back at Kennedy Space Center, there interning and seeing what they do and what the next steps are in the space race. So my last slide and my last question I want to leave you guys with, I know I'll hear from you guys with questions, is what is your purpose? As a student athlete, you're blessed with a platform. Everyone's platform is different everyone's platform different sizes, whether it's, the 10 people you interact with on a daily basis, or whether it's hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. No matter what that platform is, the key is to utilize it. Yes, I've several utilizations of my platform. I want to inspire the next generation of student athletes that you can go to school and excel both in the classroom and on the field. You can be all SEC in engineering, aerospace engineering with a minor in business, and you can be all SEC on the field. That's one of my purposes. My next purpose is to improve and is to inspire the people around me. You're blessed with the opportunity to interact with people on a daily basis. So the question is, and the onus is on you to control how you are inspiring those people that you're meeting on a daily basis with your work ethic, and how you treat them and your character. So make sure you're taking every day to, one, motivate yourself and improve every single day for yourself, but also inspiring the people around you. So that's my story. I'd love to answer some questions from you guys and hear from you guys as well.
Okay, I have a few questions actually. What were some of your aspirations as a child? Were they always aerospace engineering?
So I had several aspirations as a child. My aspirations in the aerospace engineering were really more from, being a student of aviation. When we would go and take family trips, I was so fascinated with, the aircrafts we were flying on that I would go look up, hey, what's a 737? Oh, how is a 737 different from a 757? And then from there, turning, oh, what's the difference between Boeing and Airbus? And it was like, okay, let me study the history of aviation, learning about the Concorde jets. So, that's where it morphed from. So I always my ultimate goal in the aerospace engineering world has been to build and design airplanes. With that goal in mind, I've always also had the high goal of making it to the NFL in the sports world. So I think the key is to set high goals, obviously at a young age. But when you set high goals, the real key is, what work are you doing on a daily basis to achieve them? If you're always just thinking about the end goal, you're not thinking about the steps to get there. So on a daily basis, you should be focusing on, okay, how am I going to improve today? So for me, it was when I was 8, I wanted to be the best 8-year-old quarterback there was. When I was 12, I wanted to be the best middle school quarterback. When I was in high school, I wanted to be the best high school quarterback. And that continues to go on. In college, I want to be the best college quarterback. And now my daily grind as a professional quarterback is to be the best professional quarterback and daily working to achieve that goal. So it's setting that big end goal, whether it's in the aviation world or in the sports world, and then having that daily plan and consistent work ethic to go out and achieve it.
Okay, next question. How do you balance sports and engineering during your season? How did you do it in college, and how do you do it now?
So in college and then now is a little different. In college, it's your daily in your engineering classes and your daily practicing for football. So really in college, I kind of hinted at it, right now you're probably juggling sports with some other thing, probably school and then whatever other extracurricular activity that you're doing. So the habits that you're creating now to juggle that load and that daily rigorous schedule are the same habits that you'll use in college. So it's setting those habits now, one, and then two, it's planning ahead. So when I knew I was going to the University of Tennessee to study aerospace engineering, I was able to get with my academic counselors ahead of time to map out my schedule while I was on campus. So I knew what semester I was taking all my classes, from my freshman classes to my senior classes. So by the time I got to campus, the schedule was already set, the plan was already in place, and now it's up to me to go execute. So it's one, the habits that you have, and then it's two, planning ahead. So when you get to campus, it's not a shock. I knew I was signing up for engineering and football, like that's not easy, and I knew that there's only one other person on campus doing it with me. So I wasn't going to get to campus and be shocked that I was having a difficult schedule. No, I knew I was going to have a difficult schedule, but now it's okay. Let me plan ahead. Let me be prepared to take on this situation. Now, and as a professional, it's a little different because my job is to be a professional quarterback. So every day I'm working towards that. But the great thing with our schedule and the great thing about the NFLPA, the National Football League Players Association is that they give players, and we get February off, so you have time, and they give players the opportunity to go out and pursue interest in their fields of interest. So with various partnerships with maybe a NASA or a Fanatics, where you're able to get real life business experience, where you're able to see a company that in 1995 they're selling T-shirts out of a garage, and now they're the leading sports merchandising company in the world. You're able to learn from them and be around those companies. You can do in those realms. You can go to complex streetwear. They have so many opportunities. So it's just utilizing those opportunities and making the most of your free time now as a professional.
Okay. Parker, we have a biography for Michael V. Leto. Before we ask him some questions, would you like to read that?
Yes. Michael Leto.
First, we want to welcome Saeed. Sorry for interrupting you. He's coming.
Hey guys, how are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Glad to be here. My bad. I came late. Had a couple of technical difficulties.
You're fine. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
All right, go ahead, Parker.
Michael Leto is an established entrepreneur and leader in the business of sports, founding and operating 3 sports organizations over 15 years in business. Michael holds a BA in Business Administration with a concentration in marketing from the University of St. Francis, where he earned honors as a 2-time All-American and became the first African-American football player to be inducted in the USF Athletic Hall of Fame. Michael is a 40 Under 40 Business Weekly honoree who has a passion for business ownership, business development, and mentoring athletes to create and cultivate change in the world. So, do you have a presentation?
No, man, I'm just here to talk.
I have a couple questions for you.
Okay, go ahead.
First question is, can you tell us about your journey from playing sports to building a Rise Sports Advisors?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a student athlete, a lot like Joshua, probably not as good, but was a student athlete in high school, had a scholarship to go play football at the University of Ohio State. When I was a senior in high school, my wife and I had my son. In high school, I didn't have good enough academics, so I had to go to play junior college football at a community college in Pasadena, California. I went there and recognized that a lot of my teammates had kids like me, but they just didn't seem to care. And so I wanted to be with my son. So I went back home, played at a small NAIA school so I could be in good proximity to my son, and was a 2-time All-American there, and broke the career rushing record, and got my degree in business administration with a concentration in marketing. When I was in college, I started my first company, which was an athletic development company that I ran for 15 years, ended up being the largest athletic development company in the Midwest. Had over 250 athletes go Division I and 20 go to the NFL. And several guys like Tyler Eifert and Jalen Smith and other guys. So I got involved in that. I ended up selling a portion of my company to a private equity firm. And when I sold a part of my company to the private equity firm, I got real passionate about mergers, acquisitions, business development, and so on and so forth. My mentor and uncle was Eugene Parker, who was the best Black sports agent to ever live, represented Deion Sanders, Emmitt Smith, Rod Woodson, Larry Fitzgerald, those kind of guys. And so I advised him about how I wanted to help athletes become entrepreneurs. And one of the things I really wanted to touch on was Joshua said something earlier about your purpose. I think a lot of young kids, especially Black kids and athletes, confuse something. Your purpose has to do with your why. What drives you, why you do something. Your purpose is not your function. A function is how you exercise your why. So for a long time, my function was my athlete development company. But then I switched to my function as Rise Sports Advisors, my management consulting firm. My purpose never changed. Just the function and how I execute that is the only thing that changed. Too many athletes play sports their whole lives and they think that's their purpose, but it's just a function, right? And so we got to be very careful, especially as Black athletes, what we identify with, because you identify with that. Not believe me, I just ran an event for the past 2 nights on empowering 50 professional athletes on how to be entrepreneurs, how to build what we call an athlete enterprise. And one of the things you'll find out, even with pro athletes, with the exception of people like Joshua Dobbs is a very small percent. The majority of them do not want to educate themselves. And while there's not good people out there and athletes need to choose good people to be around them, we have to take the greatest responsibility, because the only way we can ever get taken advantage of is when we're not educated. And so we have to take it upon ourselves to educate ourselves.
Next question. How do you think athletics, and more specifically professional athletes, can affect the changes needed for social justice in our country?
Oh man. So my purpose is to create and cultivate change through athletics and business. My passion is business, but I chose that instead of working in a private equity firm or with a fund and just working with normal people, I've always worked with athletes my whole life. I'm relatable and I'm credible, so I choose to work with athletes. And guys like Jalen Smith, who's one of my clients, let me tell you what he's doing. Amazing. I'll be in Dallas July 10th. We have created a Jalen Smith Minority Entrepreneurship Institute. This institute is operated through what we call a donor advised fund, which is a tax write-off benefit. We've used that vehicle to invest in for-profit minority businesses. This year, we'll give $325,000 or above to minority entrepreneurs to start their businesses. I'm doing interviews in between this call right now. And so our goal is to close the educational and economic gap. If our people know better, we'll do better, right? The cousin to social injustice is economic injustice. Okay, when you look back, you guys got to study your history. I don't know how I'm sure your schools are doing a better job than most, but you got to understand slavery and all the things that have happened in this country. People always show the physical stuff, but it was the mental stuff. Okay, there's a great book out by Tom Burrell. Tom Burrell was a communications guru out of Chicago. He wrote a book called Brainwashed, and Brainwashed is all about the greatest marketing myth, or the myth of the Black inferiority complex. When they were enslaved and we do things, they taught us that we were inferior. And really, whites see us as inferior, and many of us see ourselves as inferior. Sometimes if you got a Black doctor or you got a Black teacher teaching you about aerospace, sometimes your brain might be taught that you can't receive from one of those people because that's how you've been conditioned, right? So we have to reprogram. So I think athletes like LeBron James, Jalen Smith, Joshua Dobbs, Jesse Bates III, one of my clients, those kind of guys that have a greater purpose outside of playing the sport can really help others. Athletes have to be what I call horizontal leaders, not vertical leaders. Vertical leaders only care about their own personal growth. Horizontal leaders take other people with them. And so that's why you got to be careful when kids come up in high school, when I used to work with them, or college. It's so hard for them because they get praised so much. You're told how great you are, that it becomes this thing about you. And you have to have something bigger. So I think athletes can be a great change, but we got to be able to learn how to think. We got to want to be able to learn so that we can make a greater impact.
Amazing answer right there. I have one more question for you right now. We know that you represent Jalen Smith, but who's your favorite NFL team?
I don't have one. I only have players that I represent. I don't have a favorite NFL team. And don't ask me a question like that. If you ask me that question does not count. Don't ask me what kind of car I drive. Don't ask me what NFL team. I'll ask me a question that can change your life, not make you feel good or laugh. Another question. Make one up.
So you said, or so when I read, it said that you were in this for 15 years. During those 15 years, were there
Mhm.
any setbacks that you had to overcome?
Oh man, being a black man in business, being a black man in business. Uh, when you're talking about protesters and white supremacists are not on the streets of America. They're in the boardrooms.
Hmm.
They're in the boardrooms. When I drive through the hood and I see young brothers that don't have resources or opportunity, I struggle because I'm an educated black man, and usually I got my Nipsey Hustle shirt on right now, but usually I got a sport coat on. But when I walk in a boardroom, they again, remember, those people see you as inferior. So when you come in confident like me, or you're knowledgeable, or you might know as much, it threatens them, right? There's a fear of us being equal. You know, 10, 15 years ago, there were not black quarterbacks, right? You didn't see them in the league. Nothing just changed. So really, for me, it was dealing with corporate racism, political racism, the inequality in the business world. And when I had to do that, I like what Killer Mike said weeks ago when we were going through things. You have to step back and strategize, mobilize, organize, and plot, right? So when I started recognizing the racism, I had to step back and strategize and understood how I could overcome it. At first, I was mad as hell because I was recognizing the racism, but you got to be able to step back and strategize. We can't always be so emotional.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you for
Kyle,
that,
No
Michael.
problem.
Now we're gonna get into Sahid. So Sahid, first I would like to say congratulations on graduating.
I really appreciate it, Parker. Thank you so much.
Oh, sorry, I'm Kyle.
Oh, Kyle, my bad.
It's okay. Um, what were some of your goals as a kid, and did you always want to be a lawyer and work in the field of law?
Sure. So first of all, I'd like to say, anyone on this chat right now, it's amazing because when I was in high school, I was not getting resources like this and getting some pieces of advice from, the top names, Michael, Joshua. So when I was younger, I wasn't as goal oriented. When I was in high school, I was also a student athlete of sorts, and probably not as good as Michael or Joshua, but I did wrestle in high school for about 3 years, and I'm really still big about martial arts. I'm really into UFC and
Mm-hmm.
MMA especially. So I've been doing that for a couple years, but I was not the most goal oriented person. And there's a saying, it's like, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. So I didn't have too much of a vision back in high school. And one other thing was, I didn't surround myself with people who uplifted me or who were the most positive influences. And there's also another saying where you're the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most.
Yep.
And I saw that was a reality back then, because if you saw the average of who I was hanging out with, they were not ambitious people. They weren't people who, when I would say my dreams or when I would say what I wanted to do, were these people laughing, or were these people saying, you know what, Saeed, I think you can pull this off. So
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of that, combined with the fact that, first of all, I don't know how Joshua, he's an NFL quarterback and he also did engineering. That is absolutely amazing, because those things alone are difficult by itself. Like engineering, they say engineering is the most difficult major for undergrad. I'll tell you guys that.
Yeah.
These UCLA engineers, they don't go out to party, okay?
In the
you
library.
know, in the library. So it's absolutely amazing how he was able to do that. But the fact that because when you're a student athlete, you're a wrestler, you come back from practice 6 p.m., 7 p.m. I didn't want to study. I wanted to go eat and then go sleep. So it was difficult. I obviously go through obstacles in high school. So my grades were not top notch. They were I was getting C's and B's. But one thing I did have was I had a decent educational base. So I took about six AB classes during my junior year of high school. And it was during that junior year, which I found out in California, and the schools don't want to tell you this because many of them get funding for how many seats they have in the classroom, even though the education may not be top notch. I found out about a test known as the CHESP, which is the California High School Exit Exam, not the CASE, but the CHESP. And what this exam enabled me to do was I was able to leave high school. You can leave after your sophomore year, but I left after my junior year to get a bigger base, and I was able to exit out of high school early and enter the local community college, kind of similar to what Michael did. And my dream had always been to go to UCLA, and my grades in high school they weren't going to cut it. And but I just kept on working, and I've noticed when you keep on working hard, when you create a vision, I feel I'm a very spiritual person, and I feel that God opens up pathways for you that you would have never thought existed. And I was able to enter the community college. I became goal oriented. I read a couple of books that one was how to win friends and influence people, I believe by Dale Carnegie, and I read The Secret. I'm a big MMA fan, so I found out that Conor McGregor had read that book when he was much younger. He was working like a 9 to 5. His sister gave him the book, and I was like, shoot, let me read this book too. So I read both of those books, and I just whatever I wanted to do, I just put it down on paper. I put it down on paper. I was like, this is my goal. I want to go to UCLA this year. I want to do this and this. I want to graduate this. I want to go to law school, whatever it was. And even today, I have like an 9 pages of like all the goals that I've written down. And some of them, and you'll see a bunch of check marks. You'll see different colored pens and everything. So that's the kind of mindset that I kind of brought in community college. What I started to do, I really learned. I became good at networking. I would go to what had happened in high school. I had a class where I got like a B plus, and I went to the professor, to my teacher, and I was like, "Can you bump me?" And she's like, "Hell no." I was like, "What?" And then I found out there was another girl who went to office hours, and she got bumped up to an A minus. I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, "Come on." So I realized, office hours is important. You got to head to office hours. You become good friends with the professor. Man, they can look over your essays. They can look over your drafts. They can help you out with assignments. I went to a professor at UCLA, a communications professor. I went to his office, and he told me, and very informally, he says, what you're doing in office hours, this can raise a student's grade 5 to 10%. And he said, always, whether you're at UCLA, whether you're at Harvard, whether you're at Princeton, whether you're in the NFL, doesn't matter. Only a certain amount of people, and there's a rule for this, that only about 10 to 15% of people will actually go to office hours, try to develop relationships with a professor or any of that. So if you can utilize that early on, it's very helpful, because these are the professors or these are the coaches or whatever that will write you your letters of recs. They'll be giving out your grades. So it's a very important resource. So I was able to really learn to network with people, and that's kind of what has led me to be graduating from UCLA. And I can go on, but I'm sure you have a couple more questions that we can kind of narrow that down.
Yes, we do. How did you turn pre-law club into a big deal at UCLA, and how did you get Nick Young to speak out?
I got you. So basically, yeah, I started the Pre-Law Transfer Society at UCLA, and I'd say like a year and a couple of weeks from today, we had like maybe 2 or 3 people coming to events. We had like LSAT prep org, like come in, and we had like 2 or 3 people, and I was like, you know what? Um, I don't want this. I went home that very next day, and I swear, I got a pen, and I said, 1 year from today, Pre-Law Transfer Society at UCLA, we're going to be the #1 student org on the campus. We're not going to have an empty seat at our room again. And from then on, what I did first, a goal without a plan is a wish. So I got together with 3 or 4 of my very close networked people in the kind of pre-law field. We sat down at a coffee shop close to UCLA last summer, and we kind of constructed a plan. We're like, you know what, this is our goals for the entire year. This is what we want to accomplish. This is how we're going to select board members. And once you create a plan, once you create that kind of structure, that pillar, like I said, the opportunities just come your way. I had just done a program at Harvard Law School during that summer, and I was able to become very good friends with the Harvard Law admissions dean. So I found out that they were coming to UCLA for another event. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna steal her from that event and bring her here. I think we provide better resources than the other orgs. So I emailed her, and one of the books, if you read How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of the tips that they give is when you're talking to someone or when you want someone to come on or come help you, you have to speak in their interest. How will that benefit them? So what I did was my org, Pre-Law Transfer Society, it's a diversity-based org. The legal profession is one of the most least diverse in terms of racial and ethnic. Michael was talking about business. Business, even business has low diversity. Law has even less than that. And one thing that many of the law schools are trying to do is trying to create increased diversity in the legal profession. And I was like, you know what? That's the mission statement for my org. I know your school, Harvard Law School, wants to increase diversity. And coming to my organization where it's transfer students, it's ethnic minorities, it's African Americans, Latinos, Middle Eastern people, it's a very good way to get applicants. And they're like, okay, of course, we would love to come through. So that event, we were able to get the dean of Harvard Law School and the dean of Yale Law School, So that worked out, and that kind of set the structure. So you must be wondering, how did I get Swaggy P? How did I get Meta World Peace? How did we get these big names? So in October, I went to the Forbes Summit. It took place, in about late October, and I went there with a couple of my friends, and just to have some fun. And one of the things I say are my strengths is networking. So I'm a big like if I see someone, if they have a nice jacket, Michael was talking about he's wearing a sports coat. If I see him walking around, if I see him with a fresh sports coat, I'm gonna say, hey bro, you got a really nice jacket,
That's all I wear.
So
That's all I wear.
Yeah, that's all I wear too. So I was walking around, right around the middle. It was in Detroit. This is the first time I was in Detroit. So it was in the Masonic Lounge, and there was this tall dude, 6'9" guy. He was wearing a nice suit, a blazer, like a colored blazer. I was wearing a blazer too. I was wearing like a golden blazer. So I saw his blazer. I was like, "Yo, brother, you got a nice blazer, man. Where'd you get that from?" And he looked at me. He just started laughing. And then we dapped it up, and we exchanged information. And all we did, and then I went to the bus. We just exchanged information, like you just meet someone, you exchange contact information. So it turned out that this guy, his name is Zena Harasamon, he was a Harvard basketball player. He owned a company known as the Key Society. He'd been featured on Sports Illustrated and stuff. And he actually lived in Beverly Hills, which is very close to where I was in UCLA and Westwood. And I hit him up. And we're like, yo, bro, let's meet up in In-N-Out. Let's talk business. So we ended up going to In-N-Out. He brought in one of his colleagues, and we talked. We're like, you know what? I want to change the impression of pre-law. When you think pre-law, you think of people not wearing fresh suits like Michael does, or maybe me, but just kind of boring. You working at a law firm, but law has so many aspects. You can go sports, you can go entertainment, you can go business. There's many sports agents that are also attorneys. So it's like it's a very broad field. You can go into venture capital, you can go into business. It's a very super flexible, So I was like, you know what? I want to make this, and I want where people are kind of excited to come to our events. Like, there's only so many deans that you can bring to a law school to actually attract people from the campus. You need to have a wider demographic that you're kind of pulling from. Law is only a specific niche, but everyone likes sports. Everyone likes entertainment. So if you're able to tie something into that, it's a recipe for success. And he was connected with Swaggy P. So I was like, you know what? We can get Swaggy P on. So we got Swaggy P, right? But I'm like, wait, this is a pre-law org. How are we gonna tie this in? What can Swaggy Nick speak about law? So with Swaggy P, we got him. I was like, you know what? We need to get another guy. So I had been reaching out to this guy on LinkedIn. His name's Darren Roberts. I'd love to connect all of you with Darren Roberts. He's a former NFL coach and a Harvard Law School graduate as well. His name's Darren Roberts. And I had been reaching out to him for the past 1 year. I'd asked him to come to UCLA about 6 months ago, 6 months before this event. He told me no. I can't make it. So instead of, people will tell you no all throughout life. People will tell you no. It's your job to keep on being persistent, and not being nagging, but being persistent. So what did I do? Every month, whatever I was doing with my org, I would just send him a little update. I'm like, yo, Coach Roberts, I'm doing this. We're bringing in Dina Viejo. Hey, Coach Roberts, I just set up a website. You want to check it out? Hey, Coach Roberts, we just had a nice photo shoot, man. I'm wearing a nice suit, man. Tell me how I look, So I'm sending that type of stuff. So when we got Swaggy P, I was like, I sent him a paragraph. And again, Dale Carnegie's book, You Speak in the Other Person's Interest. So it's like, Coach Roberts, we know you're a Harvard Law grad, NFL coach. You have a very unique pathway to the field of law. Right after you graduated law school, he emailed 150 NFL coaches to get a spot there. So I was like, you have a very people would be really interested. I'd love to have you on. I sent him like a 4-paragraph, double-spaced, Times New Roman essay. I sent him all that. He sent me 2 words. He said, Saeed, done. And then he sent me a subsequent message. He said, send me an email. Let's set it up. So we got Darren Roberts. We got Swaggy P. I was like, we have to have some diversity. I'd love to get some women entrepreneurs, women leaders in here, So I went to one of the deans at UCLA, and I was like, yo, I got Swaggy P. I got Darren Roberts. I need a third. I need to complete this puzzle. And he said, you know what? I can connect you with a guy in another department who is connected with Christine Simmons. Christine Simmons is she's the COO of the Oscars, the Academy, and she was also the CEO and the president of the Los Angeles Sparks, a WNBA team, for several years. She was also the executive vice president of Magic Johnson Enterprises, and she's a UCLA alum. She's a very big deal. So I had to go to a dean who had connected me with her, right? So I go inside the office, right? And I go to the receptionist, and I was like, oh, can I meet with so-and-so, who is the dean? And he said, no, he only takes appointments. So I was like, you know what? I gotta work some of my magic. So I came armed with a flyer, and I already had her picture on there. And I said, you know what? I actually do have a meeting with him. This to discuss the Forbes event. I made it sound super official. I was like, this is to discuss the Forbes event that we're doing with Swaggy P, Kristen Simmons, and Darren Roberts. We're the first org in UCLA history to partner up with Forbes. And he looked at me. He's like, just give me 1 second. He went upstairs and he brought in the provost, and he came down, and he's like, he looked super intimidating, and he said, what do you want? And you know what? I was not intimidated. I said, sir, we are the first transfer org to partner up with Forbes. We've got Swaggy P. We've got Darren Roberts. I'd love if you could connect me with Christine Simmons so we can bring her on, advance the diversity of the panel, and get a multitude of views for this event. And he looked at me. He said, you know what? I'm going to email her. He said, you better CC me. I value my alumni relations. And I said, hey, I hope you can make this event. And I think he'll be good. And I promise, I swear. He put his hand on my shoulder. He said, I know it's going to be good. So same day, he CC'd her in the email. We got her on board. 2 weeks later, we hosted a first Forbes event on the UCLA campus. We got Nick Young, we got Swaggy P, we got Christine Simmons. I got videos and pics for it too, so if you guys want to see it. But we were able to get that done, right? So we got Swaggy P there.
And
that,
that's awesome.
Right? The full-time hustler, part-time attorney.
Okay, we have one more question, and then the next one is for all of you. What are some of your goals after law school?
I got you. So I'm actually in the midst of studying for the LSAT right now. So I'll be taking the LSAT in about 2 months. So wish me luck, please. But what my goal after law school is, I'd like to attend a top law school. And after law school, what I want to do is there's a couple things I actually want to do. So one thing about me was I was able to go to community college early on. So, we talk about high education, right? How expensive education is. People are saving money for like years. They have to go straight into loans. And one of the things I'd say is, especially in California, if you're in California, community college is an excellent route to get into the a school of your dreams, you know? So I kind of want to raise awareness to that. We're talking about the high cost of college, you know, going to UCLA, it's like 30 G's, 40 G's for just 1 year, freshman, sophomore year, that's 80K. When you could be getting the same education at the community college, you'll be being taught by PhDs, professors. If you know how to network, you can get those letters of recs. And then when you go into the actual university, you're much more mature. I went in as like a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, much more mature, kind of know what's going on, know how to talk to people, know how to network with people. And I was able to do that. So what I kind of want to do, I want to go into a consult. I have a couple things. So one is a consulting venture where I would provide both legal services and kind of consulting services for aspiring students so they can save money on their education. I'm also passionate about kind of three things that kind of tie in together. So one is obviously diversity and inclusion is kind of like my main structure that I fall under. And under that is law, and then sports/entertainment, and then fashion. So eventually, what I want to do, I want to be a CEO of a big conglomerate, something like a Endeavor, maybe the president of like the UFC or a major mixed martial arts organization. I'm very passionate about that, and I've always wanted to be a boss. I never really liked being told what to do. I want to make my own money, you know, and I want to make an impact. You know, one thing about law school, they talk about how they always talk about, you know, go into public interest, go into become a lawyer, work at a law firm. You know, that's all good. I you know, I love the law, but why don't I start a business such as Michael or such as Josh? Why don't I start a business? Why don't I fund these public interest law firms? Why don't I fund these institutions? Why don't I invest into why don't I invest and make an impact where I'd be able to help people more, use capital, use entrepreneurship to advance the interests of for social activism, you know? So that's kind of what I want to do. I'm also really passionate about fashion. So what I did for the Pre-Law Transfer Society, you know, I was like, you know what? We're already the best pre-law org in the country, you know? So I was like, you know what? Why don't we also be the most fashionable? So what I did was I combined diversity and I combined fashion. I had been to one of the culture shows at UCLA, and I saw what they were wearing. I was like, you know what? This ain't even fresh though. I was like, you know, I think I could design something better than this. So I connected with at that Forbes event. At that Forbes event itself, again, just networking. I connected with two guys who owned a fashion company called Tecton LA in Los Angeles, and they had some amazing prints. I was able to connect with them. And we made a design. So we've got 10 board members on our board, right, at Pre-Law Transfer Society. So what I did was we got a hand-stitched, embroidered patch on their like, you know, the front of the shirt. We got their names and positions. And the thing that I kind of added was we added the flags. We added the flags of each and every single one of our board members, you know, because we had diversity inside. If you see our events, we had diversity there, right? But any passerby passing by us, they wouldn't know how diverse our board is. So, you know, we have Nigerians, I'm Pakistani, we got Armenians, we got Latino people. So we were able to put on the right sleeve, we were able to put the flags there. And it looked really fresh. We got people already asking us, yo, Saeed, you know, can you hook me up with the merch? And I was like, you know, I got you, man. I got you. And, you know, the head of diversity and inclusion at Gucci saw our merchandise too, and she really liked it too. I sent it to her, you know. So it's kind of the intersection of that. Eventually, I want to utilize a top legal education to eventually go into business, entrepreneurship, and fashion. Look at the intersection of that.
Thank you for that. That's great.
Of course.
I'm not really sure who's this question is for, so
I think
I'll
I
just
think
ask.
it's for Michael.
You wanna go, Parker?
Yeah, Michael, what made you create your own business?
What made me create my own business or my business?
Your business.
Well, any business, multiple reasons. I'll try to answer that briefly, but I saw a problem. All businesses are created because there's a problem. I believe that the professional athlete model is broken. It's a broken model. As I was close to it with my uncle was the greatest negotiator of all times. Most agents do certain things, like the agents and stuff, they do things because it's a way to recruit guys. They ain't necessarily good at it. It just helps them get to the guys. My uncle didn't do all that extra stuff. He was just simply a specialist at contract negotiation. So where I'm going is you hear about all these pro athletes going broke, and especially the black ones. Like I work with everybody. I got a white client that plays for the Chargers. I love all people. My mom's Cuban, but I'm passionate about black men. And the problem is that we're just not. We're so creative. That's why we're artists. We're artists. We're athletes. We got this creative gene in us. The reason why we don't know how to do stuff, or we don't monetize things well, is because we don't understand structure and operations. We know how to create stuff, but once we create it, we don't know how to manage it properly, right? So we know how to, boys always talking about we always tell pro athletes, you live by the gross, you die by the net. They're always talking about, I just did $100 million contract. Well, that after taxes, that ain't what you got. After your fees, that ain't what you got. And if you're operating all that, you're gonna die. So my passion is to build entrepreneurs. I want to educate them. I want to educate and empower them. Too many people they work with enable them. They're doing everything for everybody. I wanted to listen to Hasid, man. He motivated me because, too many times as minorities, we see hustlers that are in the street selling drugs. He took that same hustle mentality and he using it to do positive, right? It's just a mindset, and you can shift it. And too many times for us, you guys don't get the proximity to the people like this. And so because you don't get proximity, you don't see it in yourself, right? And so I think, for me, man, you look at Jalen Smith, will be the LeBron James of the NFL. You just watch. You'll see the rest of my clients because he does different with what he's doing, and it's impacting other people. He's 24 years old. He owns 8 companies. He's in 4 different real estate projects. He's very well diverse. He can read balance sheets, P&Ls, CapEx, EBITDA. He can talk. He can go in a room full of white people with his dreads and his suit, and he can wear his hot boy chain, and then he can start talking their lingo. It's because he's educating himself, right? And so we got to be able to understand that. I want to give you guys a great definition of entrepreneurship that I love, that I tell people all the time. It's from the Harvard Business School professor Howard Stevenson. He says entrepreneurship is the pursuit of opportunity without regard to resources currently controlled. Listen to what I'm saying. It's not all about being a business owner. It's about the pursuit of opportunity regardless of resources currently controlled. Too many times we as minorities look at our opportunities, the controlling, the lack of resources, right? You gotta pursue it regardless of that. Hasid, he was pursuing the stuff regardless of what they was gonna say, and he's going after it. So for me, man, it's about building entrepreneurs that are going to build generational wealth. They're gonna build leverage. NFL players are high-paid employees. They get taxed a lot. Okay. And so I'm trying to, unless you play in Texas or Florida, it's not that bad. But you go to New York, you hit. I got 2 clients to play in LA, and they crying. So, hurt. I just, it's really building that, and it's building the entrepreneurs, and then that are going to give back to the community, and that we're gonna change. We're gonna break constraints. I mean, that's why I started. What I do. The reality is I believe 80% of people in the world want to be average, 20 want to be great. I look for 20%ers. You can't take everybody with you. You kids need to focus on your identity and your passion and get off this clout chasing. Get off the clout chasing. Get off whatever that stuff's called, Snapchat, all that stuff. You're so busy looking at other people's stories that you're not building your own story. And so really identify who you are and hang with people that's pursuing the same things. So that's what I'm doing. I see a problem with the athlete culture, and I'm trying to cure it. I go to the Pro Bowl and it makes me throw up. I was at the Pro Bowl last year because I got to go to the Pro Bowl and I got to look at all the white families and I got to look at all the black families. And we conduct ourselves I'm sensitive to it because I understand history. I understand our conditioning mentally, but I still don't like it because we got to have all these damn chains on and we got to be dressed up and the white people, you can't even tell that they was wealthy. So again, we just got to change our mindsets, and we got to educate ourselves. We got to reprogram.
This question for Joshua. What was the transition like from college football to the NFL?
So the biggest transition between college and NFL is the mental side. A lot of people think when you make the transition from one level to the next, they think, oh, everyone gets faster. But at a certain point, an athlete can only run so fast. The biggest difference is the mental side of it. I'll give you the example. In college, as a quarterback, your receiver can run an 8-yard hitch, and you can have off coverage by the cornerback, and you can take that hitch 4 or 5 times all the way down the field until the guy steps up 2 steps to stop it. In the NFL, you throw a hitch and it's heavily contested, and you try to throw it again, and it's either a pick six or the guy's all over it. And the difference is in one, the mental side of it, and 2, in the preparation. In the NFL, DBs understand coverages. DBs understand how offenses are attacking them. DBs understand quarterback tendencies. DB understands the receiver's tendencies. So as a quarterback, you're accessing all that information, but you're also constantly playing that mental game with the people on the other side of the ball who know what you're trying to accomplish as an offense. So the mental side is the biggest jump. And so that's what makes the speed of the game increase. So when you're progressing through high school, college, and then into the NFL, the biggest thing, and the onus on you to ask your coaches the why. When you're on offense and the coach calls a play, ask him why he's calling that play. You want to understand what type of a defense that plays attacking, what type of defenses that plays bad against, so you're able to go out and execute the play. When you're on defense and the coach calls a certain coverage or tells you to do something, ask him why. What is he trying to stop? So once you understand the coaching side of it and the football IQ side of it, you're able to play quicker as a player. So your transition won't be as large just because you already have the game mentally.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and words of wisdom on how we can see the world differently and improve our mentality. Thank you, students, for coming out with us this weekend, learning with us and knowing how we can improve the world. Have a nice day.
Thank y'all.